All right, friends, triangle pose. I think this is one of the most elusive postures that there is within the asana of yoga. So give yourself a heaping helping of grace around this. I've been teaching teacher trainings for almost as long as I've been teaching, and the triangle pose has always been the most challenging for people to get a hold of. It's nuanced, it's pretty subtle, and there's so many places that you can kind of fall into bad habits in it. So we'll see how long this one is. I don't know what to tell you, but this is an alignment video about how to align in triangle pose, okay? So got my blocks here left over from extended side angle. First things first, triangle pose is generally not as long as a warrior posture or like a warrior two or an extended side angle, with the exception for those of us who are pretty flexible and who actually need the length in order to activate stability, right? If you're already a hypermobile, flexible person in most parts of your body, right? It's not everything. You might have one or two tight places or a handful of them, but generally you've got more like looseness in your joints, then you might get away with a longer posture because it might force you to activate the stabilizing energy. If you are a tight person, bringing your body a little bit closer together might help you get more play in the parts of your body like your pelvis, which do not have much play. Your feet are the most important always because they discern the angles that move up the body. So step out reasonably wide, like wide and go forward, fold wide. So, you know, we like to say that for warrior two, the ideal length is that or for wide angle forward fold, if I had a chalk line dropping down to my ankles, that would be about right for me. For triangle, I'm just gonna say for a lot of us, a smidge closer is probably appropriate. Triangle's considered an open pelvis posture, but it kind of, it's like, it's non-binary. It's like in between because it's really a more severe diagonal with the pelvis, which is vital for the health of your hips and pelvis and your SI joints. I always like to say in class, if you don't know where your SI joints are, that's a good thing. You don't want to know, because if you know, they're likely causing you problems, okay? So right toes turn straight ahead. Generally speaking, is there a little wiggle room to toe in if you're very tight? Yes. Okay, but try to avoid the toe out. So second toe straight ahead. Now, the key here is that for, I would say 90% of people, maybe 80%, the left foot needs to turn in, not 45 degrees. That would be here. That's too much. That would be starting to come into closed pelvis all the way, but like 30 degrees, okay? What does that speak in inches? For those of you who are I can't tell you meters because, the American centimeters. Well, I could. I think it'd be about 3 to 6 centimeters or an inch to an inch and a half turn in, okay? Now watch out for locked knees because that's going to fix your pelvis. Now, if I have my hands on my hips, which I like to do because it gives me a sense of where my body is, I'm going to start to feel that my left hip is rolled in, my left inner thigh is rolling in a little bit. If you're really flexible, you might have the tendency to start to fall to the front edge of the mat. If you're tight, you might feel like your hip is still going to the left when I'm asking your left hip to turn into the right, okay? So if I had headlights on my pelvis, I'm in a diagonal energy here. I'm not forward, I'm not wide, I'm right pretty much in the middle. Good. Now, a couple things that tend to happen. Right leg locks out, and those of us who can, we tend to lose the right leg. Pop out the left hip. You've got a bone here. It's called your greater trochanter, and it dumps. And then can you see how my right leg just like fell off? It's like, it's not doing shit. It's just chilling. Do I feel a stretch in my inner thigh? Yes. But this is me falling into grooves of the body. This is not an active posture, okay? And this hip is just dead. I couldn't turn this leg on if I wanted to, okay? So instead of doing that, I want you to let your left hip come forward, unlock your right knee a smidge, so not hyperextended. Some people like to pick up the right big toe. You're actively trying to turn your right leg on. The right leg is working a little bit extra to the right. The left hip is working a little extra to middle. We won't split hairs on that one. Okay, and then the right hand, take it to your right butt cheek. Okay, so we're still on the right leg. I just switched directions just so you can see me. Grab onto the right butt cheek, like underneath the bone. And as you start to flare your butt cheeks out, pull up through your right butt bone. So I actually want you to flare back first, like wide, like we did in the Warrior 2 video. Then pull up, 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 and then reach down for a right shin or block or knee. Now, for some of us, hugging in helps, especially those of you whose feet tend to turn out. That hugging in action will help that back hip turn in. For me, in triangle, I actually really prefer to pull the heels apart because those of us who are flexible, I'm more in danger of over-rotating that back leg than under-rotating it. Okay, so I actually like my toes, oh man, I'm falling, my toes to the long edge instead of turned in. If your mind is blown, remember you're just here with curiosity. You're just going, what does this feel like? What does that feel like? What feels best today? That's it, just today. And then the next day, you come fresh mind, open field of consciousness, and just see what's up, okay? So unlocked right knee, right leg is rolling a little to the right, left hip is turned in a little bit, butt is flared, leg is on. Leg is on, right leg is drawn into the joint. Then grab for a shin and go, is this enough? Take your left shoulder back. If it's not enough, maybe it's a block. What's enough? I don't know, you decide today. What feels like the right amount of edge, okay? Unlocked knee, unlocked, locked, unlocked. It's just subtle, okay? Rib cage, neutral. There's a slight feeling of rotation, but only because you have a really tiny angle on that left leg. Left arm is up, right shoulder blade on the back. If looking up is too much, you can look down or you can look straight ahead, okay? They're all good. Breathe, okay? Some of us try to go here and then we're dumping back in. Get to the place that you feel like you are light. Now let me tell you something very carefully and have you rise up, shake it out. You are not stacking in triangle. Do not stack. Don't stack your hips. Don't teach your students to stack their hips. No stacking. When we stack, your pelvis does not want to move side to side in that way, okay? It literally just jams up the low back, the sacrum. It's ick. It's ick. And just because you can does not mean you should. Okay, so old school, when I first started teaching, way back when, early 2000s, people would say, like, you're sliding in between two panes of glass, right? Which looks like tipping your teapot this way. And then people wonder why they can't get anywhere. The pelvis is not intended to move that way. You've got to rotate your thigh bone and your pelvis a little bit in these asymmetrical postures in order to allow for yours to get lower. So we're working to hinge from the hip crease, but not dump. No sass on that right hip. Pull it back in. Hug in, pull apart. Both ways will pull your leg back into the joint. No stacking. Right hip a little bit in. Good. Even if you're going to pull the energy of the heels apart, you would only do that because your hip's turning too far forward, not because it's turning, like, not because you want it to open up and you want to stack. No stacking, no stacking, no stacking. It's subtle, but it's 100% not stacked. You got me? Best of luck. Ask questions in the comments. It's a tough posture. It just is. It's tough to figure out. It's tough for flexible people to not just fall asleep in it and like dump. And it's tough for tight people to get anywhere near it. If your hamstrings are tight, it's really hard. You might have like a bent leg in your triangle pose because that is the actual tightness of your hamstrings. When you hyperextend, you don't get into the belly of the hamstring. You are in the back of the knee. So I'd rather you have a bent knee, but you're pulling up. You're pulling up from the underside of the butt than worrying about that leg being straight. Okay, so try to let go of what you think you know about your body, the posture, what it's supposed to look like. You're making a shape and you're working in the sensory field and you're trying to get to know you in this form, and then you, more importantly, as the expansive version of you, the expansive being you are. Good work, you guys. Up next is revolve triangle, which is closed pelvis and another tough posture, but quite frankly, triangle's worse. Triangle's harder. It just is. Good work. Give yourself some grace. I'll see you next time.